Hi, I'm Steven, the chef at the Village School, and during our coronavirus quarantine, we've had a little bit of a limited access to certain grocery items, but the other night we realized we do have some of these wonderful fingerling potatoes that we got delivered to us from one of the local farms in the area. And so I thought I'd show you how to make a really simple potato hash. Okay, so I have all of the potatoes now cut in my little pot here. Okay, and I'm going to cover them with cold tap water. You want to start the potatoes in cold water so that they don't overcook and turn into mashed potatoes. Okay, bring them over here to the stove. I'm going to add a generous amount of salt to the water. Okay, to help the potatoes soak in some of the seasoning. Put our lid on. Bring these to a boil, then to a simmer, and then we'll strain them off, cool them down for the next part of the potato hash. Okay, so these potatoes have been simmering for a little over 15 minutes, so somewhere between 15 and 20, and you can see that they're fork tender, but they're not falling apart. And that's the point at which we want to get them out of the water. So, I'm going to grab my oven mitts, turn off the stove, carefully bring it over to the colander that I have in the sink. I'm gonna pour a little bit of water and then back away from the steam. Okay. And then pour out the remaining potatoes. I'm gonna take the fingerlings here, I'm gonna put them in this tray. The reason I'm doing this is we're actually doing this in stages. We're gonna let these cool down. This is gonna be our dinner tonight. So you don't need to feel overwhelmed every time you make a meal that everything has to be done all at once in the next hour. It doesn't. We can do this for tonight, we can do this for tomorrow, we can even do it for 2 days from now. So I'm gonna let these steam out a little bit, and then I'm gonna put them in the fridge and cool them down for later, and then we can move on to the rest of our ingredients. Also, keep in mind, you can do this with any potato. You can use Red Bliss potatoes, Yukon Gold potatoes, fingerling potatoes, creamer potatoes. You can even use russet potatoes. I personally would probably peel them. The skin can be a little bit tougher, but you don't have to. You can keep it really rustic and country like we've done here. And so I'm gonna go ahead and stick these in the fridge now. The potato hash we're gonna have today is a little bit of crunch and a little bit of that salty, smoky flavor. It's gonna come from bacon. Okay. So here I have one package of your standard cut bacon. You can use anything you want, maple smoked, hickory smoked, it really doesn't matter. So I have it all laid out here flat, and what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna bake it. So if you're wondering if the secret's not all the way out, how restaurants get their bacon to be nice and crispy and evenly cooked all the way through, bake it in the oven, not in a pan. So we have the oven at 350. I'm gonna go ahead, stick the tray in. I'm gonna set a timer for 20 minutes. And this is just a guess, and we'll come back and check it and see how far along it is. Okay, so some of the aromatics we're going to be using today in our potato hash is I have here about 3 to 4 cloves of minced garlic. So it's fresh garlic, I just minced it up. And we have a leek. Okay, so the leek is part of the onion family. It's nicely aromatic, but quite mild. And I don't think it's often used enough. So we have one, and we're gonna go ahead and put it in. Okay, so one important detail when cutting leeks that I should have mentioned beforehand is you want to have a bowl of water ready to go, just room temperature, cold tap water, because inside that leek, it's quite often probably a bit of dirt and some sand. You might have seen some when I was cutting it there. So we're gonna let these float in here for a minute or two, and all of the sand and dirt will sink to the bottom. Important thing too is when you're taking leeks out is don't pour them out like this, because all of that dirt is going to come with it and might end up sticking to it. So we're actually going to remove it from the water like so when we're ready and place it into another container. Okay, so I checked the bacon and it took about 34 minutes at 350 to get it to this doneness here, which I'm pretty comfortable with. So now I'm just going to go ahead and take a pair of tongs like so. And I'm just going to take it same as we normally would, bring it over here on a towel, and let it cool down and drip dry from the fat. Okay, so we're ready. We have our ingredients that we're going to use for the most part today. Okay, so we have our potatoes, we have our leeks. Okay, I have our minced garlic. I saved the bacon fat that came off the pan, and I added a little bit of a neutral oil to this, some canola oil. Okay, and we have some thyme. All right, so the pan's been getting hot. I'm gonna go ahead and add the fat. Okay, gonna stir that around a bit. All right, and we can go ahead and add the potatoes. Okay, so we want to get a nice even layer of potatoes and try and make as much surface contact with the pan as we can. Okay, and we're going to get a little bit of color on these. All right. And we're just going to leave them alone. We're not going to fuss with them too much. We're going to let them start to brown. And then when they start to brown, we'll move on to the next step. Okay? Potatoes have started to brown a little bit, which is great. That's what we want. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and add, I don't know, let's say a teaspoon and a bit of dry thyme. Okay, I like thyme. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and add our veggies. So we got our garlic. Okay. Nice big handful of leeks. And I forgot before, we have the bacon. So we're going to go ahead and add the bacon as well. Okay. And we're going to stir this all around. I like to use a metal spatula. You can use silicone spatula, wooden spoon. Just don't use anything made of plastic when you're touching things with direct heat. So those plastic spatulas you might have at your house, this would not be a good time to use that. Okay. So I've turned the heat down a little bit, maybe to like halfway, number 5 on the dial. Okay. And then we're just going to let this continue to do its thing. So we'll come back to it in a few minutes. Okay, so now I have this on low, so everything is just marrying together. I did taste the potato. It has some nice seasoning to it from our initial salting of the water. I am going to add a little bit more. Okay, and I'm going to do a few grinds of fresh pepper. Okay, give that a little once over. Oop, a little bit of a mess there. Okay, now the reason that I like to chill the potatoes before dumping them straight into the pan, if we had done this before, and I would recommend, is if they're really, really hot and they're coming out of there and they're going into here, they're still cooking and they're creating a lot of steam. What's going to happen is the potatoes are just going to kind of turn into this sort of pan mashed potato consistency. So by cooling them down all the way to a refrigerator temperature of around 38 degrees and then sauteing them like we have, we've maintained their structure. And we have still, while it's hot, it's not turning into something really, really soft. So it'll have some tooth to it. So we'll have some texture, which is what we want. Now in this pan, separate from the potato hash, just for our dinner, we are going to be cooking some zucchini that we also had delivered in our farm box. I've gone ahead and cut it ahead of time, sort of into these quarter shapes. I cut them a little thick because I don't want them to turn into mush. If you cut them really thin, zucchini has a lot of water in it. It'll get really, really, really soft. And for what we want tonight, we don't want that. So I cut them a little bit thicker, okay? And it's gonna be the same just like the potatoes. I want to try and get as much surface contact as I can with each piece of zucchini. So I'm actually going to go and try and sort of arrange these a little bit neater. Okay. I'm not going to worry too much about it, but I want to get some nice caramelization on all sides of my zucchini. Okay, I'm going to take this time. Salt. Okay, how much salt? You just want to get a nice covering. Okay, pretty much everything you're cooking, if it's not already a salty item to begin with, an even coating. Okay. Same thing with the pepper. Okay, and then we're just going to leave it. We're not going to fuss, and we're going to get a little bit of color. When we see color, we're going to flip it over so it's even on both sides. Okay, so what we have here in the back is a non-stick pan. We're actually going to be adding eggs to our dinner tonight. So I started them in not a very hot pan, sort of medium hot, and we're just going to let them do their thing. Up front, we have the potatoes going. This part is optional, but I'm going to finish them with about 2 tablespoons of butter. Okay? And that's just going to add a richness to the whole dish. Okay, like I say, the butter's optional, but you'll see it'll start to give everything a little bit of a shine. This is nice. In the meantime, the zucchini's pretty much ready to go here. So we're going to turn that down. And then the next step is we're going to put everything on the plate. Okay, now the final touch. Some freshly grated Parmesan cheese. Okay. Okay, you could use pecorino as well. Both good in this situation. Okay. Now, this dish, one of the things that's nice about our little quarantine hash here is it will go with any protein you have in your house right now. If it's chicken, fish, shellfish, beef, anything, any style. I would have all the confidence in saying this will marry with it quite nicely. Our protein outside of our bacon is we have a nice sunny side egg. Okay, now if we had some fresh parsley, that would really take this up a notch, but unfortunately we weren't able to get any from our farm delivery. So we'll put a tiny bit of salt on our egg. We'll call that quarantine potato hash with sauteed zucchini and sunny side egg.